Ustream is live. Twitch is a Twitch. Live and YouTube is also live. Okay. That worked. At least that's something. Hey, Chameleon. So, the reason I'm late is I've just found out that my database server hasn't been running for the last 3 days on SudokuPad.app, which is not great. The fact that nobody else noticed means my backup system worked, but it means I'm missing 3 days worth of puzzles from the database. And looking at this, I just created a new one here on the 12th, and the previous one was on the 8th. But I now synced it to my local server. If I take this query, if I do this over here, get an aggregation going. Alright. And now it should start filling in. So let's look at this one, 112. Still only 1 and 112. Ah, but that's my local copy. I want to make sure that the live system is now working again. And I don't know if it is. Still getting a bunch of errors here. Alright. Oh, wait. I'm not running... I'm not running the tunnel. Alright. Can we try it again? There we go. Let's see. Short IDs. It's still not creating new short IDs. Oh no. What's going on? So if I take, let's see, if I say current hour, can I just... I can't do it by hour, huh? Real time. I can do this, right. So this is a puzzle that is being played recently. And I'm guessing that's not in the database. One sec. Oh, come on. So, this, unless it's an older puzzle. If I take this puzzle, now just add that here. Should it should redirect me to the same one. XGN. It doesn't. XGN. Maybe it does. I don't know. I don't know. Hey, Francesco. With the camera, there's a really atmosphere of enter the epic adventure. Well, I don't really want to do that because that wasn't part of the stream, but right now I'm concerned that the database server still isn't running. And it's not currently adding things to the database. I don't know why. Control. Start MongoDB server. Okay, it started. I'd run MongoD. 8 milliseconds. Shut down task. Shut down full-time data capture. Now exiting. But this was 1635. Shutting down, stepping down. 1635. Is that though? 1653. Ah, maybe that was just now when I was looking into it. And restarting it. How do I test if it's running right now? I can... yeah, I need to do some IDs for blobs. Let me do that quickly. Don't look. These are unreleased puzzles. I just need this. Now, if I create a short ID for this, it seems to work, but does it actually add it to the database? And then if I create the timer, that'll work, right? And everything works exactly as it's supposed to, which is nice. But now the question is this in here? Like, if I run this... this should give me the latest short ID sorted by date and time. It only has one here, so what the heck? It's still not working? God damn it. So this one I created earlier just by requesting the thing. The thing is here, I'm not even seeing... Oh wait, this is on beta. Sorry, I don't want to do this very long, but if it's still not running, I'd like to get it to run. So I don't... Nope. Shit. Maybe I need to restart it. PM2 restart 4. Maybe it's just can't connect to the thing, the server until I restart it. And now if I rerun this, okay, so maybe it was because it didn't auto, because I don't have an auto reconnect in the server, I think, in the server software. All right, so I'll have to, if I do this again, I don't know if I can actually run the same API call again. Will it now create that? And if I refresh this now, will it be in here? Okay, here it is. And here's the one I did earlier, I guess. Okay, so now it's actually added a new entry to the database. Okay. So from now on, the database should be running again. And new puzzles should be getting added. All right, I'm gonna proceed with the rest of the stream, and then I'll look into this later. And then I'll have to see if I can reinsert all the puzzles that have been missing from the last 3 days to the database. Oh, this is gonna be terrible. All right, and the other thing I needed to look at is it looked like my update to this I did a couple of weeks ago doesn't work because I've just tried to change the settings here, and then it doesn't seem to be changing the settings. So here, I should be able to say custom font, default font, select font, and now if I refresh, it goes back to the old font. So that's wrong. So let's have a quick look into this. Nobody reported any problems. You guys are terrible at reporting problems. Well, it depends how you count it, but there is the weekly stats, which have global stats on them. So I have a total number of 236,435 short IDs. So this is under sudokupad.app/stats/weekly.html, of which, and I have 60,714 independent counter IDs. So how many puzzles this represents is hard to tell, and that's actually something I'm working on in more detail. Basically, how to define two sets of data if they're the same puzzle or not. Because of course, you know, there's some puzzles that have 500 versions made while they're being created. There are other puzzles where there's thousands of identical puzzles with the same username, author, and title, because, you know, it's nameless Sudoku by unknown, for example, right? So it's kind of tricky to say how many puzzles there are in the database. It depends on your definition of puzzle. All right, so let's have a quick look what the problem is with this setting. So, as we're changing the setting, it should just update this. As we're changing the setting, it should update the setting in the settings store. Right. So, handle.about select font. So, select font is what happens when the font actually gets changed. And now I'm seeing we're not actually updating any settings here. So, again, this probably has never worked. But how did I not figure that out during testing? And how did nobody have a problem with it and let me know about it? This is so weird. So, we have the override via the URL here, and then we have the get setting here. And this is just a button, so this isn't actually doing anything. So if I search for setting name here, no, there is set setting. Okay, so ID. All right. All right, and then here we should have framework set setting. All right, and then here we'll do get setting. All right. So, in theory, if I refresh this, we should set setting Happy Christmas. I don't know why set setting gets run here. Okay, because the Happy Christmas font gets selected. Okay, fair enough. And select font is from init. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so now if I do custom puzzle font, default font, so it should be Happy Christmas. I select font undefined. Oh, because wait, what? Because we're removing, and it's, oh, we're not storing it, we're setting it to the default. So if I set it to one of the other fonts, I'm guessing it'll work. If I change it to the baubles. And now if I reload, oh, okay, so it's because we're just breaking out here. So the set setting should happen earlier. So it should just happen before this, actually. Basically. We need to figure out, so font def at this point will be undefined. Right. And what do we do at that point with the setting? How do we deal with an with the default font? So get setting. So if stored font, select font, stored font. So if select font gets called with what? So we could just make this undefined, right? Let's just do this for a sec here. And we'll do this. We'll do set setting undefined. Undefined. Now, I don't know if that actually correctly deletes the setting. So we'll find out in a second. So it's got the baubles, default font, and now it should be undefined. If I refresh it, okay, that seems to work. Okay, what if I do this with a question mark here so we don't get an error? So if I go here, custom puzzle font, change it to bauble, this bauble mammogram, and we'll change it to default, and it should be undefined. Okay, so this should, if we do this here, that should work. Then we don't have to do this, right? We can get rid of that. We can get rid of that. Get rid of that. Rid of that. And 158, get rid of that. That should be the only thing, only change we need. Okay. Let's bump that quickly. That's an actual fix that we need to do. We don't need to deploy it right now. Hey Marusha, yeah, late start. Sorry about that. I found out my server wasn't running. my database server. Yeah, number of well, that's also because it's a NoSQL database, right? So for example, each puzzle item has a list of short IDs. So for example, the number of short IDs isn't actually, the short IDs aren't like a table or anything like that, right? They're just keys on JSON data. So it's a little yeah, that's the problem. All right, so that should be that. Let's just push that quickly. And then we can maybe actually get to the point of today's streams. Fix default custom font setting. Again, I wonder if nobody's encountered that, because I mean, lots of new users obviously don't have the Christmas stuff running, so they wouldn't have never seen it, but you know. All right, so this was, I'm only actually on this one because I wanted a dynamic font puzzle for testing. And what I want to do today is I wanted to do a visual effect, because some people were asking, and I'm gonna need to find a digit that's correct, that reveals some fog. There we go. Yeah, so that's a 2, right? And it reveals fog here. And people were asking, first, I sound weird in my ear. Maybe the music is too loud for me, and I need to crank this down a little. Let me know if the music is decent volume. So, this was a 2, right? So people were saying that you don't necessarily easily see when it happens, right? And in the future, I actually want to change to make the fog color customizable. And some setters were asking to be able to have invisible fog, right? So instead of having fog there, it could be just white and it just never shows. And you just, you can just, thanks for letting me know. So you could make quote unquote invisible fog, and it really just reveals the features, you know? And I like that, and I definitely would like to do that. So let's see. There is a visual tag for fog animation. So that's already something, right? So it fades a little bit. There's this little, but it's not super clear. So what I would like to replace this with is with a little animation. So make that animation basically three stages. You know, no animation, just a fade animation, and then a custom animation. But that's kind of the point, right? They don't want to actually have such a thing as empty cells. They just want to have hidden features that get revealed, right? They don't want people to know where the fog is, right? They don't want people to think about that at all. They want people to play a normal Sudoku that occasionally, out of nowhere, a new feature gets revealed for, right? I mean, again, that's the setters, right? It's up to them. It's not really... It's up to them to make it so it's not confusing, right? So, what I would like to do is... I would like to have a tiny little animation where this gray square gets turned into a bunch of little gray circles that just sort of go in a tiny little visual effect. Very, very fast, right? And the tricky bit is how to deal with something where lots of cells get revealed simultaneously, right? So if I do this, boom, right? How do we deal with that kind of animation? And how do we do it in a way that it doesn't kill performance on certain devices, right? So I probably would like to avoid doing this all as an SVG filter. Although, since the fog is already done as an SVG filter, maybe it makes sense to do it the same way. But I want to experiment, right? So we're going to start a fresh code pen here, and I'm going to get rid of some of these things temporarily, because I don't think we'll need them. Get rid of that, and get rid of that. And we can get rid of that. And I think I'm going to actually minify that as well. And we'll just create a new pen here on CodePen, which I haven't been using that much lately. Over here. New pen. There we go. I don't think I want to make this completely full screen. We'll do something like that, right? And initially, I just want to see what I can do with some circles. And we have a couple of options. We can just use SVG. You know, we could just have a bunch of circles inside an SVG, maybe animate them. We can just have a single canvas and then programmatically update it. we could potentially do something with kind of blur or whatever, right? We could like have a almost like a dissolve filter, right? Yeah, in fact, I was discussing this with James recently about, because he had like a puzzle with lines crossing diagonally between cells, and he put like little gray squares, and there's actually a bug where on some of the grays, the squares were somewhat partially transparent, but I'm not even I haven't looked, I have to like look into it, but I'm not even sure if it's like different rendering in different browser or whatever. But basically, I want to put a gray square there to make it ambiguous where the line would be before the fog is actually revealed, because obviously if it cuts through the fog at a corner, you can see the line, and that wasn't part of his thing. But obviously he could have bent the line, right? But what I was also thinking is, instead of just having fog, to actually have dynamic features. Like, how do we, similar to fog, would it make sense to have whole features be revealed or hidden in the same way, right? You know, but the setters have to kind of come up with what they need, because I can't just make a thing that may or may not do the thing, right? It'll be a lot of work, and then there's no puzzles for it. So I'd love to have something, or I think it might be handy to have some way of specifying, like, hey, this whole feature, this arrow, this line, this killer cage only gets revealed once cell XYZ gets solved or whatever. And it might be implemented with the trigger system, right? The trigger system might become more generic, where it can encode these kind of steps. And then it's up to the setter programs to actually create a good user interface for generating that data, right? All right, let's see. Fog. So I just want like something with a bunch of circles. So I think initially, do we want to just start with an SVG? And then we'll just animate the thingies in it. Let me just see. What do I need for a minimal SVG? If we go to framework, I haven't really done a lot of SVG animations, short of, you know, the fading and stuff. If I do something like this, let's say we'll make it, I don't know, 400 by 400, right? And then we'll have a little bit of JavaScript. Maybe we'll do a document dot add event listener DOM content. Ooh, content loaded. Start. Right. And then we'll have async function start. I'll do that. We get a console. And then we can say console.clear. We don't have to keep staring at our old errors. And here we'll do something like body HTML width 100%, 100%, margin 0, background hash 666. Does that work? There we go. Now we don't get blinded anymore. Or no, it's nice to get the self shader effect. The problem is performance. Like, the filters used just for the fog itself are already killing people's devices. So let's see. Content? No, content. My typoing is on point today. Thanks for stopping by, guys. Really appreciate it. I need to get the view hours up, so I need to figure something out, and it's already this far into the year. Oh, I shouldn't have refreshed the whole page. And I've been saying that I wanted to stream more often, and I haven't done so yet, so it's a bit annoying. Why is that in the console? Did I paste this in the console? Oh, because I'm actually literally logging out the console itself, the function itself, right? Here we go. Okay, so let's get do something like do something. Okay, svg equals document dot query selector svg. Let's call it svgel. Right. All right. So now we'll just create a few circles. I'm just getting my my bearings. Like, I haven't really done DOM manipulation with SVGs much. So, well, actually, I say that, and then I'm realizing that my entire app is based on an SVG renderer. So I'm doing it all the time. So, SVG render. So if I render a cage here, what exactly do I do here? We'll do render part. So render part is really the thing that generates the new content. So we'll do append child part, that attribute. Okay, so we kind of do this. All right, so we'll do something like this. And I'm just realizing SVG circles are actually a pain in the butt to do, aren't they? Circle. I'm almost tempted to do it on a canvas because I'm much more familiar with that. So it's a little bit. Or are there SVG circles? Oh, there are circles. Okay, all right. Because I've done clouds out of circles for a revealing map effect for a game once, but I think it was canvas. I mean, it was a pixie engine, so I guess it was canvas rendering. Type would that just be circle? Is that what I use here? Type render part type path. Yeah. So type would just be circle here. Right. Let's get rid of the EL. And then we'll do. Yeah, let's go with the nomenclature. Let part equals. All right, and then then we are just assigning attributes, things like that, right? So part.set attribute xy, and then if I look at this, we have our radius, cx, cy, and radius. So we have cx, cy at 100 each, and then a radius of 50, right? And then finally, we are appending the child to the SVG. So SVG dot append child part. And we probably, oh, there we go. We've got the circles. All right. Yeah, segments is where you have to do arcs, I guess. All right, so we'll do fill red, something like that. Okay, so now the idea is to animate them. I can either do it myself in JavaScript, which is probably what I'll do. I mean, I could try to use like CSS animations and stuff, especially since I'm just like moving them in a constant direction. It's tempting to just do that, but I'm also tempted to just have some JavaScript that just does it and be done with it. Yeah, that's the thing what I'm thinking about, because the part, like for example with the snowflakes, I had to reduce half of the particle count because they were too complex. And initially I had them as SVG elements, and they were just adding so much stuff that it just froze up browsers, right? And there wasn't that many. And they were about twice as many as the 3 in the corner effect. So the problem is if I do this per square that's being revealed, you might potentially reveal a lot of squares simultaneously. Yeah, well, of course I'll lerp the scale, but the problem is how do you implement that, right? I can do it via a CSS animation. I can do it by just capturing the request animation frame callback and just updating the positions myself, which is what I'm tempted to just do because it's just so much simpler. But we could try CSS animations first. The thing about CSS animations is because, like, you have to kind of predefine them. So, for example, the way I did it with the particles, with the confetti effect. 1 second. Do I have? Yeah, no, I don't have the second camera. The way I did it with the 3 in the corner effect is I had them all move in a straight line, but then every particle was rotated slightly to make them move in different directions, right? So I could rotate all the circles, or like I could have the circles inside group elements, rotate the group elements with a transform, and then just animate the circles all in the same line, right? And then how far they animate and so on could be done via, because you don't want to predefine, 50 different CSS animations. Although, considering that I'll probably not have that many different ones. And now I'm realizing I probably should make the background white because we're going to kind of base it on, like, we want to have a gray circle on a white background, more or less, right? So, so we kind of want to do like this instead. That's the thing, right? Once you're creating a bunch of random stuff, then what? You're going to inject all of that as CSS into a CSS dynamically? I mean, you could technically predefine, like I could statically design the entire animation because it's not going to run very long and it's not going to be super complex, right? Vertices, what do you mean? Let me see. So the solution seems to be just lerp the scale over time. Suggested vertices. Not sure what you mean by vertices. Like, I'm not working in a 3D engine here. We're talking... Well, all cells would have to be revealed. Interior cells would also be affected, of course. I want basically each square to turn into a puff of particles and go just, pfft, right? The whole point is to highlight where it's happening so the eye gets drawn to it. And I don't want to have to special case it, because obviously if you had a lot of them, you could say, oh, well, if a lot of stuff gets revealed in the same spot, you don't do... But, like, I don't want to have a lot of that logic in there. I just want to be able to have an effect, and then I just play for every cell that gets revealed, right? All right, let's just make an effect of a couple of circles moving and take it from there, right? So we need to track them. So we need an array of particles, right? And we need to give them basically... Okay, so we'll just say... we'll just create particles like this. Let's call them puffs. Let's create an array of puffs, right? And then we'll do puffs dot push, right? And each puff is gonna have X, and we'll align them with a square. So let's put a square in there that we can work with. So let's do something like this first. Let's do rect. And then we'll do rect. You know what? I'm gonna make a helper function already. Create part. Create part. And it's gonna take the SVG, the type, and the attributes. Right? And then we're just gonna say something like part. Type. And then we'll do... My nose is itching, sorry. We're gonna return the part when we're done. And we're gonna do for const eval of object dot entries, and then we'll do set attribute part P. Why is my nose itching? All right, we can just do that. Let's do this for a sec. And then we'll do create part, SVG, rect. And then we'll do, what is it? x0 or x50, y50, width 100, height 100, fill, no, stroke red, missing in const declaration equals that rect. Right. And then let's just output the SVG afterwards so we can see what we've made. Stroke. Stroke. Fill. Blue. And I believe I need to figure out exactly what rec takes as properties. Is it? Oh, it's width height, not W. All right. Width height. It's 1,000. Is it X and Y, or is it like? It should be X and Y. Ah, yeah, because we're not appending it. That's the missing part here. All right. There we go. Curious, what about fill like 3 concentric circles with strokes only to produce a ripple effect? Let's before we do ripples, let's do anything at all first. So, we're gonna make this stroke. It's gonna be black. And then we'll go line thickness, I believe. 3. Fill nada. Thickness. Fill none. Line. Is it not? Or is it stroke thickness? Is it line thickness or stroke thickness? Stroke. SVG stroke thickness. Stroke width. Oh, jeez. How am I supposed to keep up with this? I got none of that right. Width. All right. I think thickness is what is in my engine, and that's probably why, because I get confused. Okay, so let's do the puffs. So each puff will have a CX, and we'll do something in this range, right? So we'll do math.rand root. We'll do something like const RNG range from to math.random times 2 minus from plus from. Right, so we should be able to do CX is range, so we want to go from 50 to 100. We'll do the same thing for CY. And we'll output what these things are afterwards, so we see if what we're doing makes sense. All right, these look fine. What's an easy way of rounding it in a single mathematical operation instead of having to enclose the whole thing in a round? I guess we could split it into fractional and non-fractional parts. And then re-add the... Okay. Value, huh? Or we'll just do it the simplest way. If rounded, return math.round now. Do we want to round it? We probably want to floor it. Just do this, right? So then we can just say true, true. Like that. So these all should be 50 and yep, okay. And then we can do our well, we'll have to fiddle with it a bit, but something between, I don't know, 10 and 20 for now. Right. And then for const puffs, we'll do create part, svg circle, puff object dot assign puff, and here will be fill hash 666. And what was other attributes we didn't include? I think that's it, right? There we go. Well, that would be simple, but it wouldn't be fun. Okay. So the idea is now we want to move them all to a logical place, right? So and one thing I haven't figured yet is how I can make it so that the puffs don't appear outside of the square, and at the same time, they don't leave holes in the square. So ideally, in theory, I'd like an algorithm that gives me a bunch of circles that completely fill in the square, but of course, that means a lot of circles potentially. So probably what I'll have to do is I'll have to run this, like have them come in while the square is still visible, and then as the square fades with this animation, the puffs appear, right? So we're gonna fade the square out. So in fact, we're gonna fill the square. And in fact, okay, so we're gonna call this cell, because that's our actual cell outline, right? And then we'll do this, and then we'll do fog, and that'll be fill hash 666 and stroke none, right? And the color is obviously not correct. And now what we want to do is we want to create these circles in such a way that their radius never exceeds their distance to the outer edge. So we probably want to normalize the puff, right? So we're going to make a function here, const create puff. Now, one of the issues is we want to distribute the puffs roughly evenly. And like, I want to do it randomly, but in reality, it might almost make sense to kind of have a single animation that's predetermined. Although if I play a whole ton of them, it'll look weird, right? So I think we're going to create the puff mathematically on a 0 to 1 scale, right? So we're just going to do something like this. And then we'll do let x equals math.random, y equals math.random, right? And then our distance to the edge for this particle is the square root, right? So we'll do a dist function as well while we're here.
equals x0, y0, x1, y
1. And I think I'm just not going to deal with square distance. I'm just going to do the whole thing since we're not going to run it that often. So I don't think it's a performance issue. Everything is itching suddenly. What the hell? So we want the delta x. So we want x1 minus x0 squared. Right? That's squaring, isn't it? 3 divided 2 should give me 9. Yep. We'll do the same thing for y. Right? And that should get us the distance. Dist 0, 0, x, y. Right? X, y, dist. If I do this, let's do that. Let's do this, 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 and create puff. If I do this, where is it complaining about? Oh, just do that. Something like that, right? All right, so if I look at the console here, this number shouldn't tell us anything useful, right? So we want actually the minimum or the smallest distance of x or y or... All right, so we either want the smallest value... Okay, so this is completely pointless here. What we want is math.min of x, y, 1 minus x, and 1 minus y, right? Which gives us the distance from the unit square edges. Right. And that'll be our radius for the circle. Right? And then here we could accept our dimensions, which are just multiplicative, right? So we can just do x, y with height. And then here we're going to return... We can actually just kind of do this. No, we're not going to do this because we want variables. What we want to do here is now return. So we'll have our cx equals... is our x... let's do this. Cx, cy, there we go. Cx is Cx times width, x plus that times width, math.round, no, math.floor, right? The x actually should be outside. And we'll do the same thing for y. Y, cy plus height, cx, cy. And radius. Radius is a bit of a problem because width and height here is seen as two different ones. How are we gonna do this? We can either check which one's the lower one, or we're gonna just replace these with size. But I actually would like to have it dynamic, so this might not work very well. Well, we can do this. We can multiply this by width over here. And we're gonna do this. Multiply this by height. And then we'll do this with minus, height minus, right? And then now we don't have to do this anymore. Don't have to do that anymore. And radius is just going to be radius, I believe. Radius should already be correct. Math hypotenuse. Is that a thing? Eh, there you go. Is that new or is that like ancient? Probably ancient, isn't it? What a weird name also for a distance function. Like, come on. When was this added? Chrome 38. Holy moly. I'm not resisting, just... It's not part of my mental toolkit. And my mental toolkit, as you might understand, is quite limited. Alright, so... Here, we're going to do... let x equals 50, y equals 50, w equals 100, h equals 100. So, x, y, w, h, x, y, w, h. All right, and that gets us these. Radius is weird. Wait a second. We're getting the smaller of w minus width minus x, height minus y, right? X plus. I'm just looking at this one. This. Oh. Oh, because of the rounding, huh? Well, I guess we might as well round it over here then. For now. And then I don't have to worry about that too much. And then this should also... This should always end up being rounded anyways, right? So it's the 7. Because it's 8 on the other dimension. Here's the 15. Okay. Alright. If we now create these puffs, and we'll make them white, just so they stand out for a sec. If we don't have the fog at all. We have these puffs here. CXCY. CXCY radius. CXCY radius. Oh. Puffs dot push. Right? There we go. So these circles should always stay inside the boxes now. And we have only 3. Now, that's the other thing. I'm thinking as an algorithm to get good coverage, what we should do is we should, instead of having them anywhere in the square, we should subdivide the square into smaller squares and then have one circle per small square and then just shuffling them around a little bit. It's not an accurate algorithm, but we don't need full coverage, but it'll just distribute them more evenly, right? So what we could do is, what's easiest? We have taken that number and turning it into a grid position. I mean, I'll do it all the time with Sudoku cells, right? So if we take the square root of 10, the problem is it'll not necessarily do that correctly. So probably what I want to do is I'll just actually do something like, or let x, or let's call it underscore x, 0 to underscore x. Like 3 steps, right? Underscore x plus plus. We'll do the same thing with y. y plus plus. Right? Let's do this for a sec. X and Y is 50-50. What am I missing here? Oh, underscore X, underscore Y. I am an idiot. Poisson disk. Man, making things complicated. Right. So, we now want... we want to change these to be... We want our X and Y be underscore X and underscore Y. XX equals 3, YY equals 3, right? So that's our range of values. But yeah, that's divided by 3, right? So we want to have width divided by XX. That's our new width, right? And we'll have our starting X be X plus underscore X times width divided by XX. Right? So 0, 1, 2. So the width is always this, but our starting X would be 50, 83, 116. 116.6 times 33 plus 33 is 150. Right. So now, instead of adding these down here, we're going to add them up here. And obviously, this could be done a million times better, probably a million different ways. But right now, I'm just kind of looking for a quick proof of concept without breaking my head too much. My head is very fragile. I'm a simple creature of few thoughts. And I haven't done, like, you know, this kind of math in a while. Now, the problem is it limits the circle size. Which is somewhat unintended. So, I'm starting to wonder if I need to combine these a little bit. Because this only really applies to that. W2, H2. If I do this. The problem is... do we need... yeah, we need two separate things there. We need to know about both squares, right? We need the square where we're... So I can't do it relative to 0, 0. I could get rid of the offset and add the offset in afterwards. Well, which I'm doing here. Okay, so we only... let me think. Do we care... offset, we do... no, we don't care about the offset at all. We do care about the offset once we go into the larger square. No, basically what I want to say is, like, this circle, its range of potential radius should still go to the outer square, right? So we kind of need full two sets here. Or at least that'll make things somewhat easy-ish. Or we just do this down here, right? To be honest, I know what to do. It's not hard. I'm just trying to think about what's a simplish way to do it. So if we rescale it if we generate this within a 1-1, and then afterwards do all the other stuff, is that going to make our lives easier? Is that going to be a problem for non-square areas? Because in case I ever decide to kind of quote-unquote optimize it by adding something else, let me not overthink it. So let's do this down here. Let's get rid of all of this. We're just going to integrate these for a sec, right? So our CX is actually going to be... so we're going to do an underscore W, right? And it's going to be this. Underscore H equals H over YY, right? So we're currently creating the positions within here. Except now we need to take our little offsets into consideration as well. Oh, that's annoying. So we're going to add our little offsets here, but not these offsets. Yeah. So we're just going to add these. And that's actually underscore X times underscore W plus, we're going to get rid of that. The only reason I'm trying to do the floor in here is because the radius calculation is going to be a bit messy otherwise. Right? And then we can do the same thing with CY, Y, H, H, right? Because this gives us the internal offset. This gets us the actual randomized positioning within our subcell. And now the radius here isn't calculated relative to that, but it's calculated relative to... we need to subtract... Do we need to subtract X here? No, we haven't added X in anywhere yet, so we can ignore X here for now. I feel like I'm missing some bracketing in these brackets, right? So we don't need to worry about X just yet. We do worry about W, which is fine here, right? And then we can just do buffs.push, right? And we just add the X back in here. Ah, here we go. So yeah, so you see that a circle in the middle could get quite large, but one on the outer edges wouldn't grow that big, right? And now we can say, okay, if I make this 10, you know, we'll get 100 small circles. Like that, right? And if I make it 2, we'll get 4 small circles. But the problem is, this is the state in time when these circles are being created. So it will go instantly, right? So I don't mind, like, they will break out of the box because they'll start moving outwards, right? They'll move out and fade. But if they just appear and then do something weird, it's just going to be weird, right? And yes, I could do something complex where it's okay for it to overflow. To be honest, what I would like to do is morph it from the square to the circle. In fact, I was looking at some stuff. Excuse me. Like some animation morphing stuff. Like I could use it, you know, but then a lot of that involves like Gaussian blur filters and stuff. You know, and then you can do little things like that, you know. But that's what I'm trying to avoid because these kind of filters are really expensive and people do this on, you know, small phones and I don't have a lot of control over how things are in the long run, right? Because, you know, look at the Sudoku pillar puzzle. Suddenly somebody puts 19,000 cells in there, right? I'm gonna have to take a bathroom break soon. I started so much later than I planned. No, don't press F5. God damn it. All right. Yeah. So let's just continue from here for a sec. Because the second point is, I now want to give all these circles... yeah, I probably want to limit how big the circle gets. Like if it's near the center of the whole thing... And in fact, I'm not randomizing the radius at all, right? So we actually want a... we'll want to subtract some fixed amount, which is our minimum circle size, right? So this is our maximum circle size. So we want to multiply this, let's say, by 90. So we want to do 0.9 times this. Math.random times 0.9. Times 0.9 plus 0.1. That gets us a range from 0.1 to 1.0. And then we'll do that. And in fact, like, looking at this, we have the same thing, right? So we actually want to do this plus this times that. I like that. Maths. Right? That's basically this thing. I think. Math at random, so that's from 0 to 1. We are adding our x offset, our local x offset. We're multiplying the whole thing by the w. Yeah, that should be correct. How did I break it? Why did I break it? Where are the puffs? Show me the puffs. Well, the cells won't be blinking. It's gonna be, it should be a very smooth, slow sort of animation, right? Math.random is a function I need to call. Here we go. So, okay. So the next step is to give them all a small direction. And I'm just trying to think, does the direction need to depend on where it is? I mean, I would like them to move outwards, but maybe it doesn't matter too much. Thanks. I figured it out. Like, do I want to give them all vectors strictly moving like an explosion away from the center? Do I want to just randomize them and not care? I guess we'll have to look at it, see how it works, how it looks. So we want to do this. Const move puffs equals time, right? And then we'll do equal animation frame. Yeah. So we want to do request animation frame move puffs. Right. All right, that will give us a time. And we'll do something like let per time delta time, right? And then we'll say if part time equals undefined, boom, part time equals time, turn, else we'll do this, we'll do delta time. Let's shorten these, we're gonna use these a lot. So we'll do dt equals car time minus car t, right? And we'll do console.log car t dt. Or we can just put these in here like that. Put capital T here. Okay. And here we'll execute one a second time. That should give us 2 executions, where the second one has a current time. And, yeah. And we actually want to output these down here. Like that. That should give us a correct delta time on the second call. Time equals, no. Minus. Because time, I think, always goes up, right? Time minus current time. Current time equals time. If it's undefined. Now it's not undefined. Now we need it. Time. Ah, yeah. So here, current time gets updated. Delta time is 16. We get our 16 milliseconds. Ah, perfetto. Okay. We don't want to run it too many times. So we'll just see what we can do here. Here, pause minus center, and just move it along that vector. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying. Like, probably do that. But we'll try a random one first. See how that goes. So if we say dx equals math.random, right? And we'll do a dy, math.random. Like, I'm also trying to think if I can make it generic to kind of apply to different things, but maybe I shouldn't be doing that. Maybe I should, you know. So, now we should be able to just loop through the puffs. We should also do something like this. Puff.part equals. Right? And now, our puffs are in here somewhere. Here we go. Create part. Create part should still be returning. Yeah. Puff.push. Puff.part. Create puff, create part. Part should be the element. Let me see. Am I getting this wrong? Oh, no. Oh, there we are. Okay. So now here we can do something like, do I... Because I don't like accumulating errors, right? So I'd like to have the original position and the delta time, right? And I'd like to have it frame rate independent as well. But I guess the original data in the puff, we can keep it, right? Like, the puff structure now contains 2 sets of data, one in the element and one in the thingamajig, right? So we should be able to do now a move puff, right? And then here we can just do for const puff of puffs, move puff, puff, right? And then this should happen once. So I should be able to log this out without spamming myself to death. And then here, we should be able to update the puff part with a new yada yada, right? And then we can do here a... we kind of want a start time, right? Like, we want the total elapsed time. We want to have a start t. So we want to do start time equals start t. Right. And then dt is actually start t. And then we don't actually update that. And then this will be dt, right? And I hate the spelling because in the past I always made it with a small t, so I'm gonna change to a small t because I'm gonna keep getting it wrong. But then the I don't know. You gotta keep it consistent, I guess. Move puff dt. Right? So now this should move the puffs with our 16 millisecond thing. And then after that, no, dot slice 0, 1. So that would just spam our logs here, right? Right. Let's slow it down, and we'll just say, no, we don't want to slow. I'm overthinking things. All right, let's get rid of this stuff. Move puffs. We'll just say, puff.part.set attribute. And the attribute we want to set is cx, and we want to set it to puff.cx plus puff.deltax. Is that what we called it? Ex? Wait, did I not? Oh yeah, we're not using create puff at the moment. So we have a delta x times dt. Now that's 60th of a. This is milliseconds, right? So we want to do divided by 1,000, 0.001 times, right? And then obviously we'll probably have to make these bigger. So times 100, let's say. Right? And I wrote puz again. It's gonna happen more often, I think. Small t. But then that's just gonna read Kurt. Yeah, I usually use dt small t as well. But the other variables are just... I'd have to write out time. Who wants to do that? Nobody wants to do that. Damn mathematicians. Alright. If instead of doing this, I was gonna do set blah 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 set timeout just so I can slow it down. The problem is then I have to figure out how to calculate the time value. Yeah, there's our little sphere. We probably don't want to log this out. We probably don't want to log this out. One of them should be moving. Alright, there they are. CY, CY, EY, right? Here. Now, these are all positives, so we'll do minus 50 plus. Minus 50 plus. So that's sort of the idea. But we want to lerp it, like we want to... and we want to be able to, you know, trigger it over and over and over. For testing, it'll be easier. Let me think. I basically want to streamline my test framework here so I can tune the feel of it without driving myself crazy. Because what we want is, excuse me, we want to have a fixed number of animation steps or a fixed period of animation time, right? And we want to be able to control how far everything travels in that period of time. And we want to potentially apply a lerping function as well. So, and I'm wondering if I would be better off with SVG animations after all. Sorry, with CSS animations. Problem with CSS animations is, yeah, I can use variables, I suppose, but then I have to set the variables. And for every, if I want to animate each particle differently, it's a huge pain in the butt, right? Let me see. Do I have lerp functions in here somewhere? Where might I have done lerping? Maybe in the confetti effect. One second, I'm gonna switch off the heating. I'm boiling. This was under. Let's just search for lerp. Find lerp. Did I? Have a lerp function in here. There we go. But we don't actually want linear, do we? Why is it divided by 10? Oh, for rounding. We want non-linear lerping. And I've done that somewhere. Because I wanted to slow down or whatever. Yeah, I know what the function is. I don't want to rewrite it right now. I don't want to have to re-debug it and all that. And I've done this so many times. There's got to be in here somewhere. Let me see. Is it in here, maybe? It's in here somewhere, definitely, right? Just which one? Did DC2 use lerping? Maybe? And by lerping, I mean not lerping. I mean other types of... ease functions, right? Let's search for ease. Ease. Oh, great. The word release has ease in it. Can't write release without ease. Or please without ease. Ease in. Yeah, I've used the CSS functions here. All right. I have the easing functions in here somewhere. I've used them for so much stuff. Gotta be in here somewhere. In fact, I remember having a whole library of them that I built from scratch. Oh, this one I liked. This is actually a translation of something I did in Pascal in assembly to JavaScript. In fact, it's a fairly close translation of the original assembly to JavaScript. I had a lot of fun doing that, actually. This was the sort of stuff I used to do back in the day. Look at that. This is what it looks like when you manually translate assembly to JavaScript. Anyway, where are the lerp C's? Oh, maybe here. Shoot. Yeah, I implemented a 3D engine here. I can't believe, just to do a dice roll, I started implementing a 3D engine from scratch. That's so me. No easing. Okay, no ease functions. My girlfriend likes to play Ludo, so I wanted to build a Ludo version that so she would not play somebody else's game. Where is it? Collision detection? No. Can I search my own pens? Oh yeah, the 3D card stuff. But then here I probably was using an external library, right? Didn't it have the dangly bit? Let me see. There's gotta be but here I was using 3JS, but yeah, Power 4. I think I was using the ease functions off. Oh, I was using GSAP for the animations, which had all these functions in it, probably. But I should be able to track them down from here, right? Like, if I look at that. Yeah. Alright, but I don't want to use those. I have my own somewhere. Alright, I'm going far enough back, though, that... Where would it be? I haven't done that much animation stuff with SudokuPad. So I don't think I've done any, like, dynamic easing with different ease functions. But I have done some non-SudokuPad stuff not too long ago, just messing around. So maybe it would be in there somewhere. God, I have a vivid memory of, like, collecting a bunch of easing functions for my own use together. Was it for some animation in SudokuPad? Let me think. Is there anything where I would have done easing? All right, I'm wasting too much time on that. So, what I'm thinking is, instead of doing it this way, I would just do the start and end position. Even if later on we add some easing, then we don't need the dx and dy, right? And we can very easily define where we want our outside positions to be. We could just randomize. I mean, we could just multiply that up by our animation length and that kind of thing. All right, let me just do this just to restart the animation. Because basically what I want to do 3 things. I want to also change the radius. And I want to fade them, right? So the idea is the gray fades out and the circles sort of fade in. And it's just kind of a small thing, right? But you see, I don't like this. I don't like some of them being super small and something. Well, I guess I can change that here. So I can say 0.3 to 0.7. I guess that's our minimum maximum range, right? But some of them are still super freaking tiny. Probably, because they're too close to the edges. We probably want to limit where we're putting them. Huh. We actually want to limit where we're putting them by some sort of percentage. But now, like, it's getting too messy, so I'm trying to think. I'm kind of fundamentally trying to rethink how I can simplify this process. And I'm still wondering if a fixed pre-calculated animation might actually be the way to go. Like, we have a couple of questions, right? How do we choose the start? Like, the number of particles we can probably make fixed. How do we choose the starting location such that they're distributed fairly evenly and cover a good area? Secondly, how do we choose the finishing position, which is probably okay by just taking all the particles on the inside and moving them to a ring on the outside or something? Those are the 2 big questions. Hey, Alikin. I'm working on a little animation for the reveal of a fog cell to make it a little bit fun and also make it a little bit more visible. Let's change this here for a second because I don't like that. And it's a bit painful to work with. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do something like const start anim, right? And then we'll just do let progress equals 0, and then we'll do set interval ID equals set interval const step. Like, we'll do something like this, right? Set interval step whatever. 100 milliseconds, 10 times per second. That's fine, right? Step. And then here we'll do start anim. So it should spam step, 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 right? We'll do progress plus plus if progress is greater or equal to 10. Clear interval ID. Progress. And then we can do greater or equal to 1. Progress plus equals 0.1. Something like that, right? And we can work out the details later. Progress. Right? So progress will go up to here and then it'll stop. And we should be able to restart that. Window.start equals start anim. All right. we can restart that for testing, makes it a bit easier. And now we can move the puffs. And we'll do that just like this. Turn. No, and we'll do this. If progress is greater or equal to 1, we'll actually do this, and we'll do progress equals 1, so we don't overshoot. And now, instead of doing this, we'll actually do something like that. And instead of times dt, it's puff plus this times progress, right? And we go from 0 to 1. Okay. And now these things are too small again. Make them bigger again. But we can now lerp. We can use the lerp function, and we can kind of. In fact, let's use the lerp function. I think I found it here before. Because then instead of having a delta x, we'll just do a start end, right? This is a 0.1 accuracy. Is that enough? I don't know. It was enough at the time. Okay, so now we can also change the color. So we'll do a const fog color equals hash FFF. Nope. 666. We'll do that. And then these will also be fog colored. Okay. And now we can also do fog. So fog dot set attribute dot opacity, and it'll be progress goes from 0 to 1, so it's 1 minus progress, right? Yeah. And these will also fade out, but slightly later. All right, so if we do this 0.5, and we'll make these a little bit faster. Right. Now, we actually also want to fade these, but not right away. So we kind of need a little bump on the curve. And we need... and I think I want to make these change size. Like, make them go smaller. Attribute... R puff.r times 1 minus progress. If we do this, right, they'll just kind of shrink to 0. Which maybe we don't want exactly. 0.9 times 8, 0.2 plus that, right? We'll do that. I feel like I'm kind of approaching this wrongly for some reason. So this would make us go from, this would be the smallest, right? If we shrink them, actually if we just shrink them by 40%, that might be all we need, right? We'll do something like that. Okay. We can make it a little bit faster and smoother and a little bit more fine-grained. Like that. Don't need the steps anymore. All right. Well, I'm also, you know, we don't necessarily have surrounding fog, but I see what you're saying. The problem is if we want to animate color, it's a whole other mess. Because there's no attribute brightness, right? So they have to manipulate color, which means we'll have to manipulate RGB, which means we'll have a source and target color. And we'll have to LERP those as well. But I feel like we'll need some sort of table, right? Let us do let's do something like fog BG, and then we'll go from width times 2, height times 2, times 0.5 times 0.5, right? And that'll be our fog background. X times 0.5, Y times 0. Width times 2, height times 2. What? That better? This is your 2.5, I guess. It's minus W times 0.5, I guess. Minus H times 0.5. Just to keep it generic, right? H minus. Except, all right, first of all, let's move this to 150, 150. And then we'll just do 4 of these. 0 or up left. So it's actually X minus W, Y minus H, no Y, width, height. We need 9, don't we? Oh my god, my head. Yeah, this is also a very two-party spawn. If so, you can just change the base color. Yes, but I want to change. I want to fade them, right? I don't want the particles to appear out of nowhere. I want the particles. What I really want to simulate is the fog itself dissolving, right? So the fact that I'm working with is to fade out the rectangle while fading in the particles, and then the particles fade out on their own, right? And that's kind of the effect I'm going for, right? Now, these particles right now, I'm very unhappy with them. So I need better coverage, and I need a better way of, I need a better test harness so I don't mess around with all this bollocks, right? I like what you said about the color, but maybe it's not necessary because the particles, it's not going to last very long, right? And I don't want to over-complexify it. And the fading of the particles isn't actually included here yet because I don't have a proper LERP function. I'm just gonna look it up. LERP function quart LERP function. Power. I had this all somewhere and I just don't want to have to re-implement it from scratch. Hello. Hello. VLERP. Now is the time ease in out using LERP 2 dimensions only. Okay. Why is this? How is this easing? LERPing doesn't ease. LERP doesn't ease. LERP is linear. Oh, because they're doing that on the time scale. Yeah, of course. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I keep forgetting that you just need to do it on the time. Const cubic is cubic. We go from T. Yep. T. Right, and then we'll just do turn. Something like that. Right? Let's just get rid of this compression. Don't need that. I don't know. Oh, that's the kind of thing, right? So we should be able to do this. Now we've got to convert it to lerps. Super lerping, float lerp, G float lerp, B float lerp. Huh? Yeah, but you still, now I need to, I haven't even finished figuring out the positions. Now I also have to finish the RGB values. I'll probably have to look up a color palette. I'll have to decide how I'm gonna, do I want to change the tone? You know, so it's gonna add 3 times the work that I haven't even done yet for something that's supposed to be super quick. Like, I'm not gonna spend a week on this. So let's try to get something working first before we try to improve on the thing that we don't even have yet. So we still need to figure out a good way of finding the initial positions. I don't like what we have right now. I really don't like it. It's pretty crap. Pretty crap. So, how do we do that better? How do we... Because right now, we do get a relatively even distribution of the circles, but the sizes, like some of them start tiny. That shouldn't even be possible. Unless they get really close to the edges, which I guess I haven't fixed, right? So probably what we want to do is we want to make these bigger and then skip the outer 2 rows, right? So we want to go from 1 to that -1, right? So we have the same number before, but we kind of now have 5 columns, and we're skipping the outermost row and column. We still have a couple of really small ones, though, which is pretty stupid. Let us also do something like this. 666 6. So they're alpha, right? And then stroke red. Right? Like it doesn't help us to have a bunch of circles on top of each other, right? That's just, we're wasting stuff. But that would look stupid. We just have a circle then. Like, I want it to look like a puff of stuff. I had an algorithm once for creating clouds out of circles, and I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of trying to look up that algorithm, because I don't even, it's probably backed up somewhere. It's probably not on my Git thingamajig here anymore. I don't even remember the game. I remember the company it was for. I don't remember the game it was for, so I don't want to go there. How did I do with the clouds? I think with the clouds I did it by rows, right? So the cloud always had a row that started and stopped round. There's probably an algorithm like some sort of cell division, but I don't actually want to go that deep either. That's why I said, oh, let's just create a circle quickly for each positions, right? If I skip that, if I skip the movement for a second, just look at them, yeah. So you see the distribution here isn't great, and if we have very large circles, they kind of overlap each other. So the upper limit of the size should also be limited. So I'm thinking now I want to go the other direction. Like, just mentally, imagine we have a grid of circles that are just a box of circles, right? And now we're just making some, like we were running the animation backwards, right? We'll just make them a little bit bigger or smaller to get more coverage, right? So in other words, if I change this to become cx equals underscore x, so this is 0 through 1, so it's underscore x plus 0.5 times underscore w, and then add underscore x, and then math.floor, right? If I do the same thing with the cy, what does that look like? It'll also tell me if I did. Yeah, why are they all in the same spot? This should be relative to their local underscore w's here. Because then here we're adding x to it. Yeah, this is wrong. Why is this wrong? Because our y-axis should be marching in a grid pattern, right? Starts at 1 and gets to xx, which is 5. So it gets to 4. So it's 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 2. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4. Whatever, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So this should be 1, then 2, then 3. How do they all end up in the same spot? Huh? And if I make the radius this, basically, they should be distributed along the grid. But they're not. Why? Let's see. Underscore x, underscore y, cx, cy. So there's definitely something completely wrong here. 1, 2. What? 10. What? These numbers are so wrong. Ah, this multiplication is on the outside, right? Oh, okay, no, yep, that was the problem. Okay, the multiplication was there. So underscore x underscore y is relative to 2 units. Yeah, okay. Which still doesn't seem right, because it's 1, 2, 3. It's not... I don't... it's relative to the idea that the cell's divided into a 5 by 5 unit grid. Okay. Alright, so... now we could actually make the circles larger and the grid less dense. So if we go from 0 to that... something like this, right? So this gives us our initial coverage, and now we could just juggle them around a bit. So the outer ones need to get juggled inwards a little bit. So we could randomize the radius and move it inwards by the amount that we changing the radius. Does that make sense? And what if we overlap the circles a bit? I'm getting hot, sorry. Let me think. If we want to overlap the circles, we need to push the outer ones inwards. So... the question is, could I just randomly move them around and then afterwards check if any of them, if the radius exceeds Yeah, I guess, right? So if we now just say plus whatever math math dot random times the overall width, I guess, times w 0.2 times that 0.1 negative 0.1 plus 0.2 times no, what am I doing? This is not how you get a range. Times that. Right. This should give us from negative 1 to positive 0, from negative 0.1 to positive 0.1, right? Relative to the width of the total square. We can do the same thing on the height for the y coordinate, right? We can do the same thing with this. Then we kind of do the same thing. Let's say we'll do from 0.3 to 0.7. That makes sense? 0.5 minus 2 plus 2. Yeah. Except we actually want to just go bigger because we want to have more coverage. Kind of like that. Maybe a larger range. Not really. Yeah, like I keep thinking of how I want the animation to feel in the long run, but we actually, yeah. And now all we need to do is move the X and Y's inwards, so none of them overflow the square. Aim for noise-based dissolve effect, although I'm not sure how to do the performance legit. That's the problem, it's the performance, right? I'm trying to stay away from adding more filters because I don't want to kill people's phones, right? It's fine on a desktop, but people, you know, half the people are playing it on phones and a large number of them on low-performant ones. I've done effects in the past, which I didn't even notice were non-performing, and the game just started to stutter for them, right? And this is really not important, so I'd rather have it be visually less appealing. It's a small effect, right? So now all I have to do is readjust these such that now do I push the balls inwards or do I adjust the size? I guess I could push the balls inwards, right? So cx equals math.max, and the maximum here is the maximum is, we have our x line, which is 0, plus the radius. No, that's our minimum. Our minimum is r, whichever one of these two is smaller. So that should cause... No, we want the larger of the two. Because we want to push it over to the right. Yeah. But now all the left, like none of them overshoot the left side. Let's do the same for y. We'll do the max on the y, right? That doesn't work. Oh no, it works because it's for the top one, right? And now we'll do the minimum of, and now it's h minus r, I'm guessing. Yeah. And same on the y. And here it's actually w minus r, right? All right, so now we have spheres, and we can manipulate how big and small they are. They have a relatively even distribution. We can manipulate. So I like this better than what we had before. So I'm just gonna do this. And I'm just gonna get rid of that. Just gonna get rid of that. Right. Well, I'm also thinking if I could even because I was thinking I could accelerate them past the center point and then, but I was what I have in mind. I find it hard to express. It's kind of like the effect of in a cartoon. Let's say a horse hitting the ground and just smoke or a puff of dust off the ground and then just fading. But in a very stylized cartoon, just spheres, right? Kind of like what you would see in a very old video game effect. That's kind of what I had in mind. That sort of cartoon style, like an 90s game with a cartoon style, or an 80s game, like early 90s, right? Right. Now, and for example, I'm tempted to have the X movement to be more strongly done. So from this, how do we... I mean, right now we just have a random movement. Do we want to move... What if we now say we're picking an external position for each of these? And then we just lerp. Do that. Or is it okay to have... So if I wanted to have a outwards movement, we basically need to find our position relative to the center, which would be before the X and Y here is getting calculated. We want CX. Alright, let's do dy0 for a sec. And CX delta X is CX minus X minus 0.5 times width. Right? That should give us a speed, but we want it actually inverse. We don't want the X speed to be smaller the closer we go to the middle. We want it to be larger. The X minus X minus 0.5 times width. Shouldn't that be giving us a range from 0 to whatever, right? So this should rescale it from 0 to width. And we're subtracting half width. So that should put us in the range of negative half width to positive half width, right? But, oh. My bad. Wind Waker Explosion GIF. Wind Waker Explosion GIF. Any of these in particular? Really seeing. Is this what you're referring to? But without the gravity, right? But yeah, that's kind of, sort of what I'm working towards. Why are they all negative now? X minus X should give us in the range of whatever, right? So if I do... yeah, Cx minus X. Cx minus X should be abutting against 0. Wait, what? Cx? We've just add... Oh! I'm an idiot. Okay, we don't need to do that. Okay, we don't need to do that. Right. Alright, and then we'll do minus 0.5 times W. The problem right now with this one is the ones closer to the middle move less, which is, we want the opposite, right? We want the ones closer to the middle to move the farthest, right? So they go, so we're clearing the center. So we need to invert this. And the formula for this is, what's the formula for that? We take the absolute value. We can rotate it around. I wish I could just scribble on a piece of paper. TL draw. So what I'm thinking about is, nope, I need to draw. Called TL draw. Let me draw. So this is our square, right? So I have values in this range, and I was shifting them to values in this range. But I want these to be the smallest and these to be the largest. So I want to invert each half range, right? I mean, I could obviously split it and invert it. In this case, if I take the absolute value, I can just invert the absolute value and then re-multiply it by the original thing, I guess, right? So after I've done that, I can do math.apps, and then negative math.sign times, right? No. 0.5 minus. So now, nope, don't invert. Wait, not by multiply by 10 here. You know what? I think it's a lot easier if I divide this by W first, right? So if I say divide by W, then subtract 0.5. So now we're scaling it to a, range of 1 kind of thing. Right? And then afterwards, multiply it up again, W. Alright, so yeah, so you see, the ones close to the line move the slowest, the ones further from the line move the fastest. But now we have to re-add the sign. So the sign of this, math.sign times. Here we go. Now the only problem is it's too perfect, right? So they all end up on the same spot. So we need to multiply this, or like add something. 1.5, something like that. Times 3. All right. Let's just have a quick look at the Y version of this. Oh, DX. Let's see. All right. We need to fade it. Attribute opacity progress 1 minus progress. Except here's where we need to do the kind of lerpy lerp here. We want progress to be unless we just fade this out much faster. So if I do progress times 4, something like that, right? 1 minus progress here. So now this just fades slower than this. And if we do this 60 milliseconds intervals, we'll do it. Okay, and then we can maybe make this not quite so excessive. And we could radius. We want to change the radius as well, right? Oh. Oh no, the speed is directly proportional to. It's relative to the center now, which is not exactly what we want. They all end up in the corners. Oh, I'm gonna have a quick break. I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna have a quick bathroom break. So just a minute or two. So don't run away. I'll be right back. Hopefully I can think more clearly then. Let me see where my on break sign is. I'll be right back. All right. So I was thinking about it a little bit. I was thinking like, okay, what's the fundamental thing? So there's a couple of things, right? There's I want to, you know, from a perspective of, oh, Restream is frozen. YouTube isn't frozen. Twitch isn't frozen. Restream seems to be frozen. Let me refresh Restream and see if it'll work without screwing anything up. All right, I think I'm back. But all the chat history's gone. Gosh darn it. All right. Beep beep. So fundamentally, conceptually, I want it to feel as if the gray fog is the same thing as the particles, right? I want it to crossfade into the particles, right? So one of the ways of doing that obviously would be to have a pixel-based effect where you're literally using, you know, a Perlin noise or whatever to dissolve the gray. But that's too processing intensive, so I'm trying to do just a crossfade between the plain gray square and the particles. Secondly, I want it to feel as if wind is clearing the gray. So it's blowing away the fog. And I was just thinking, maybe if we think of wind, we don't want the... Because originally I was thinking like a puff of smoke, like as if somebody is stepping into dust. And just, you look down, a horse hits dust, and it just scatters in all directions. But really we want wind to blow away the fog. So maybe we want to have more horizontal movement, and maybe we want the movement to all go in the same direction. So not just in all directions, right? The other thing I was thinking about, maybe it doesn't need to be individual particles, because the way I was thinking of it is like, imagine you have sort of a gray fog, like in a cartoon, and you'll have something like this, and then they'll slowly move apart to reveal what's there. So maybe we will kind of want to do something like that. Now the problem is we don't have an edge that we can hide against, right? But really, maybe we only need two structures that kind of part, right? So maybe we can just have like a curvy shape on the one side and a curvy shape on the other side and slowly move them apart. So let me try something where we keep the circles in place. And let's build a sort of fog curtain shape with the circles, which in reality should be could be just a polygon, right? In fact, maybe that's what we want to do. Maybe we want to do a shape kind of like that, right? So from the edge of the square, kind of like this, and then from the other edge like that, right? And then we just move them apart. What we're doing with the outer edges, which would be ugly, I don't know. And this could be a whatchamacallit, a gradient, right? Yeah, exactly. The problem is with multiple cells. So let's go, that's kind of what the advantage of the particles is, because the particles I can just scatter all over the place. All right, first of all, let's have a look at moving them all in the same direction. And only moving them not moving them in delta y at all, right? And we'll just all move them at the same speed in the same direction, right? So we'll just do like a static, or just like math.random times, I don't know, 0.4, and we'll do 0.3 plus. Something like that, right? And that's delta x. Why are the particles all up there? What? Why are the particles all up there? dy0. There we go. Right? And then we'll do this times 100. Yeah, something like that. And maybe... I'm just trying to think, is there a way of simplifying this? Should I move them all to the same static location? Because basically, I want these back ones also to end up there. So the further away they are, they kind of have to move a little faster. And then basically, as they exit the cell, maybe we all want them to kind of fade out, right? So we want that the minimum speed gets them past the edge of the cell. That's kind of what we want to accomplish. Right, and we'll probably want to do this a little bit faster. Not that fast. Because I also want them, I want them to kind of lurpy slurpy derpy out. So if we use our little ease cubic function here, would that work? Skip this for a sec. Yeah, also ease cubic is probably the wrong function here. Where did I do the searching for the easing functions? Ease function, ease in out, something like that. But we don't want to ease in, out. We just want to ease out or ease in. Ease out, ease in, out, ease out, ease out. There's like standard implementation for these, like. All right, ciao guys. See you later. Have a good walk. Okay, that's just basic lerpin. Here we go. Easing functions. Give me the implementations. Lerp unclamped. Don't care. Ease in. Here we go. We want, yeah, ease in, right? We basically want const ease in equals e2 e squared. Does that work? Yeah, because 1 squared is still whatever we want it to be, right? And then we can just do this. What does that look like? No, we want ease out. Ease in. Ease out. Flip square. What does flip do? 1 minus x, okay. We want 1 minus square, and then flip again. All right, so ease in, ease out is 1 minus t squared, 1 minus, right? Ease up. Right, and the fading, do we want that easing in or easing out? Easing in or easing out? Easing in or easing out? The fading also ease out, I think. All right. This is indeed 10 below. No, this is road. I guess 10 below was the previous one. So, if we now run this, I want the opacity to be ease out more. Eased more. So, I guess ease out 3. Right? Am I doing this right? All right, it's slightly too long. That's too short. Yeah, I still don't like that some of them move so far. I almost feel like the easing should happen relative to the square. I mean, ultimately, it needs to be a fairly short thing, right? It can't be too much longer than the original fade effect. Also, I don't like the way the circles are transparent relative to each other. So the other question is, do I maybe want to move it all just as one thing? Ah. If I want to fade them all together, I really kind of want to put them in a group, right? We want to do the puff particles are getting added Puff part SVG. All right. So we'll do something like let puff G no props, right? And then this goes inside puff G, and then here this is gonna be puff G set attribute like that. If I could move them all together, but I don't think that would be a good effect. Huh? What's the problem? Hello? Great part. Great part. Why don't we get any error messages? I mean, I'm guessing it fails here, but why do I not get an exception here? We get an uncaught syntax error. We get nothing here. Wow, that's crappy. All right. Okay. So now they should all fade. Oh no, it still doesn't work. I thought if I change the opacity of the group. How do I join them into a single? Do I have to do them as a single path? Let me see. SVG opacity G. Yeah, like that feels like it's not correct. That's a transfer of an object of a group object that is the degree to which the background behind the element is overlaid. Still. What if instead of doing that, we change the color? Instead of doing that, we'll do fill, right? And that'll be a sec. So if I get this to be a value between, so if I do 255 times, if I do math.floor times that, right? That should get me from 0 to 255. This should get me from 0 to 255. Starts at 240 for some reason. All right. 255 times 1. Okay. And if we'll say to string 16 dot add start to 0, right? And then we'll just say hash this, and that should be our color, right? And then we'll do set attribute fill. And that should get us a color change with opacity on the color. And it still freaking overlaps. God damn it. Look better with more particles than Super 40. I'm trying to avoid more particles. And I'm thinking, could I move them all together? Or would that just look weird? So if we want more particles, I guess I'll just have to increase these two numbers, right? Is it too fast right now? Slow it down a little bit. Are they too small? Well, of course they get smaller because there's more of them, right? I don't know. I don't like the overlapping, especially as it fades out. It looks just like a bunch of circles. It doesn't look like the fog or smoke effect I had envisioned. It sucks that the overlapping opacity doesn't work like it I feel like it should. Because the content of the group to first be composite and then it has to lower the opacity. This is distinctly different from lowering the on all the elements of the group, which can also be done via CSS. But that's not what's happening here. Like, it's clearly not what's happening. Change it with each shape of each group. Filter your own character. Like, this is not what's happening. I'm changing the opacity of the group. Ah, wait. I'm doing both. Yeah, it's not doing it. This is a lie. This is clearly a lie. If we stop at halfway, right, we should be able to see it. And then it's... Huh? Yeah, if we don't do that... Math.max progress 1. Oh man, I thought this was going to be such a simple effect, and it looks like I'm not going to finish it in the stream. Can we rerun that? Why does it clear at the end? Don't clear. Don't freaking clear on me. What's the progress at the end of this process? I mean, that's what I wanted. I don't want to overshoot, but I do want to undershoot. Yeah, here we go. That's what I wanted. I wanted it frozen. So it clearly doesn't work the way it says that it would, which is quite annoying. And if I look in here, just to make sure, we have a singular color value. If I get rid of this and I say opacity equals 0.5. Ah. So here the opacity does work, or it should work. I don't know why it didn't work before. Okay, but it does. So if we go back to the full thing. Okay, if I do this. It looks weird. They look like they have the wrong color. I do this. Now they should have the same color, which means you should... What? This still looks weird to me. You should be able to see them. Oh, but... because we have that... Because it's not in the same group, we have that density issue. Like, if I want them to be identical, the same color, I need to put them in the same group. Which might be tricky, but it might be possible. So if I do our puff G here, and I'll put the fog inside the puff G, and then I don't modify the fog opacity separately. Except we do kind of want... Yeah, because it's not the correct fog color. This should still not be like this. Like, I'm not changing this at all. These particles shouldn't be visible. Because these should all be the same color. Right? Circle should be... Oh, wait, I'm not giving them their color. Ah, yeah, okay. So now, it will look weird because we won't see them, right? They'll just push out. Okay. So now, if we do this, this will be twice as transparent as the particles. Alright, now if we don't put it inside PUBG, they'll still overlap. Okay, alright, but that's okay. That's alright. Now if I ease this in, what's the effect here? It looks weird, because it's happening at a different speed, right? Yeah. Okay, we don't want that. Yeah, this isn't too bad. We definitely want it faster, and I'm wondering if we want particles to basically fade out the moment they exit the box. So they don't fade out according to progress. They fade out according to how much of them is still inside the box. If you know what I mean. So the particle just fades, like, it gets to the edge of the box and then fades out. But now, then we'd be back to having to fade out the particles. I'm just thinking, can we do a gradient? A transparency, like a transparency mask with a gradient. So we don't change anything, but as the particle moves to the edge, it automatically fades out because it hits that gradient. But then those are probably expensive things again. Alright, it's a bit too slow, and I want to be able to scale it over time. So we don't want to step it up like this. We want to do we have our let interval D. Okay, so we'll have let progress start t equals date.now. Duration equals 1000. Right? And then we'll do let t equals date.now. Now. And then we'll do start t minus start t, right? That's our delta time. Okay. And then progress is just this divided by that. So this counts up as our time, yada yada, right? If I divide this by that, we'll start at 0, we'll go down to 0. So we want the opposite, right? And we'll do if theta now, if 30 defined 30 equals t, right? So then the first step should be 0. Yeah, let me get to 0. Yeah. And then the final step should be at 1000. So progress should be this. Progress equals this. Will be math.min. Right? Boom. Right, now it'll always last however long this duration is, and we're independent of all the other crap. Right, and then progress is just in here. And it should always start at 0 because we're only counting from the first time we're executing step. And we can execute step immediately if we want to. Right. Yeah, I definitely want it to break out of the box because we have a bunch of them. Now, the problem is, if we're doing 45 cells or 81 cells, we'll have a lot of particles, right? So the question is, now that they're kind of moving together, A, can I simplify this? Or can I clone it? Like, does it make sense to reuse the same thing for all of them? I would also like for them to fade more the farther they've moved. Instead of just moving all together. I don't know. So I need to wrap this into a little package so I can. So let's see. This part is independent of where the puffs are, right? So this should work for any number of puffs anywhere. This can be one for all puffs if we have multiple cells, right? Okay, so now we need to move puff. I don't think we're even using anymore. I think I don't want to go with that. We can substitute these. In fact, we can actually do that just now, right? We can just, if progress is, so instead of this, we can now just do regress animation frame step. And then we can say if progress is greater or equals to 1, is smaller than 1, then we'll do that. And then we don't need to do that anymore. Right? And it should still just work. Okay. What error is this complaining about? Interval ID is not defined. Yeah, but I'm not using it. What interval ID? What are you talking about? Okay. We might want to animate the radius again in the future. We'll deal with that when we get to it. If star t equals undefined, star t equals t. Yeah, I guess that still makes sense. Can we just do something like this? Just keep it simple. Probably. All right. I mean, I could do a transparent GIF. There's no reason not to have it. But again, do I want 81 GIFs? And then they all look exactly the same, right? All right. So now we want to parameterize this. So we can call this as a function. Create puffs or whatever, right? So there's a couple of issues. The group. No, I don't want to transform the group. Okay, so I was just thinking we could transform them. The X offset and Y offset just happens down here, right? But the width and height calculations are used up here. I'm still wondering if I could rescale this to 0, 1 and then exclude a bunch of stuff. All right, so if we say const create puffs, right? X, Y. Like if I do this, and I'll just do let puff equal that. puff. Right, and then puffed apart. Puffed apart, create puff. Puff G, yada yada puff. Loading puff, 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 puff. Alright. And we don't need that anymore. Make sure that it still works. I haven't broken it yet. Still broken? Here we go. There. Alright. Now we wrap it all into a thing. We'll do our puffs up here. And we have that. Right? And then we do create puffs X, Y. Right. And if I say X plus W, the puffs should be over by 1, right? Yeah. Let's make our SVG a little bigger. Right. And now we want to create a couple of cells. Let's not create any puffs for a sec. Right. And now we'll create a bunch of cells. So we'll have puffs, cells, right? Create cell. Right, now we need, for each cell, we need an item of fog and a cell boundary. Width and height we can leave global for a sec here. And we could get rid of this. Right? Now we can create a cell at 50, 50, 50, for example, right? And then your little cells will do, we can cells dot push cell, and we can say cell dot fog equals, right? Fog is not defined. Sure. Okay. And we'll create another cell at 150, 50. Okay. And now, instead of calling start enemy here, we'll actually have a clear cell kind of thing, right? So we'll have a const clear cell, cell, clear cell, cell, and then we'll do clear cell, cells 1. So each cell, we have cell fog. Okay, so how about we'll do this. We have a cell. And we'll have fog. Like that. And now we should get an object, cell and fog. Right? And now we should be able to, if we do start anim, all the puffs are all right. So cells, and we'll do fogs, right? Now we'll say clear cell. So now we'll create a bunch of puffs. Create puffs. And here we'll just say X, Y. Right? We'll do puffs cell.x, cell.y. And we'll do start anim. Just to clear those puffs again. Without the fog clearing. Okay. But we're now gonna say fogs.push cell.fog. Right? And now here we'll go for fog off fogs fog blah 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 blah. Or that. Right? Now, if we create another cell at 250, and we'll create 3 more here, right? Now, what if we do this? Ah, what do you think? Yeah, but basically I'll have to do this work to generate the GIFs, and I might as well just do this. And the GIFs probably will be a lot bigger if you want them to be decent quality, right? If I do something like this. And if I do something like this. Alright, and if we make 3 more. I think that works, especially since it's supposed to be really fast and snappy, so you'll never really look at them in too much detail. And here they're kind of big. They're not going to be this big, right? They're going to be much closer to something like this, which now is going to screw everything up. Yeah, 100, 150. And if I do more of them, so 5, 6, 7, 8, so 6, 7, something like this. The only issue right now is obviously, but that's not going to be a case for us, because I was gonna say I don't like I was gonna think, oh, I can make them. What if I do make them so that when you click, it'll happen? But right now, all the fog elements all fade at the same time, and that's kind of what'll happen. I'm thinking, like, do I want the animations to be independent? Because what will happen is multiple things will fade at the same time. Yeah, but here they can technically overlap. Like, you can potentially start another animation before the first one is finished. And do I want to manage multiple independent animations? It's not too onerous, right? Okay, let's wrap this up into a much more precise, compact package, right? So we're actually gonna animate one set of pufflings at a time, right? So create puffs. We're no longer gonna have a global array. We're gonna. The big problem is because we're fading puff G as a singular thing. Do I want to create a group? I guess we can, right? So we can just do this. We can do this, create part, blah 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 blah, blah, right? And then we'll say let puffs equals array, right? And then here we'll do return puffs. And then we no longer have these. We no longer have that, right? We don't really want this either. Right? We need an array of cells. Sure. Right. Now, clear cell. We have this. It's gonna return... It's gonna return... what? Puffs. Puff, G, puffs. I mean, we can make a more elegant thing here, right? Let puff equals... Right? So that should now give us a structure with the group and the elder children. You know what? We're just going to return puffg and we're going to just rely on the child grouping here. We're just going to call this puffg as well. Right. We'll get the fog for a sec. We're going to just move puffg in here. Right, and then we're gonna have start animation with puffg, and then we'll do puffg turn, and then he'll do console.log puffg.children. Children 0. Each of these children is an element. It doesn't get us the other stuff. That's a little annoying. Also, why are these not floored anymore? I thought I floored them all over the freaking place. How are they not floored anymore? I don't know. It shouldn't matter. Kind of sort of matters because, you know, the HTML gets kind of big, but not a detail I want to worry about right now. Now I'm thinking, previously we've kept some of the stuff in here, right? Can I assign data thingies, data attributes? Is it with set attributes? So if I say something like, oh, dxdy is already on there. So instead of part, in fact, we don't even need this anymore at all. Right? We'll just create the part and that's it. And then puff off puffg.children. Right? We'll do puff.setAttribute. Puff. We'll do let cx equals puff dot get attribute cx, and then we'll do same with delta x. Something like that. Argument list. Where? This? Okay, something was moving over there. If I have the dx's here. Alright. Parse float. Parse float. Ah, but this is not the original. Okay, we can't do that. What if I do data dash ex 666? Can I do data attributes like this? what's going on here. Okay. Do we have data dx? All right. I mean, we can also... These are the regular attributes, right? And then we're just gonna have x0 as our starting x. I mean, we can just use x, frankly, because we know that it's a circle which uses cx. We could do this x, y, cy, right? And delta x, we don't need a delta y. And then we can do this x, dx, get every dx, right? And then we'll just say x plus dx. X plus dx. And go back on this. Don't know if I'm outputting too much stuff here. This console is not very performant. I think that's the problem. Let's slice 0, 1. If I just do the 1, and I'll stop at the halfway point again if progress is smaller than 0.5. Yeah, well, we gotta make it compatible with the other stuff. Let's get rid of the fog parts, just so we see our spheres. I can see if they're moving or not. Okay, they're there. Would they move? Children, okay, it doesn't like slice. Probably it's not an array. Alright, so I'm seeing one sphere over here on the left, which means it's not doing the right thing. Console.log x dx. Get attribute x and dx. X. Parse float. I forgot one of these. Okay. Will it work now? Alright. That looks like it's working. Do we go back to doing it for all of them? Okay. Let's not output that. Okay. Now we need the fog for the cell. We have clear cell. X, Y, cell. Cell dot X. Is that a thing? Cell dot the cells are rectangles with an XY coordinate, right? Can I was just thinking, can I just make the fill opacity? What if I make this a group as well? I'm overthinking it, actually. I'm overthinking it. So, we need the X and Y. We're creating our puffs. We're animating the puffs. We don't need to show the cell. Well, we do want to show the cell because I want to know if we have the fog element, which we don't have at the moment because I removed them. So I should be able to do this. Where is that getting output? This is being output somewhere. I need to stop that. Where's that being output? Puff G, yeah. Okay, so we can pass in cell.fog. That'll get us the fog element here. And then here we can fog set attribute. It's just gonna be 1 now. Okay. So now this should be entirely independent for each cell. So in theory, we should be able to do these with like time delays if we wanted to. And we can just kind of do this. Boom. Right? Is it auto-repeating? No. Okay. And we could potentially do something like, okay, so let's make an array. 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So for cell, let's cell IDX off. Let cell equal cells cell IDX. Now we can do a set in interval. We'll do a clear cell, right? But our interval is gonna be math.random times 100. So it's gonna be within 100 milliseconds. And ugh, I don't like that. Set interval is the wrong function. Ooh, oh, slow down, slow. Oh, geez. Okay. Whew. I just realized it was making a lot of those. A lot. Okay. So we are still freezing it halfway. So we want to let it finish. Right? And then we can do something like... click. So every time I click, I should be able to fire this off. And it should be a new independent animation. Except for the fog, right? Huh? And the fact that they're slightly randomized, actually, I think, kind of adds to it. What do you think? If anybody's still around. Can I make this bigger? Yeah. We could even... Looking at this now, I almost want to make the delay something that goes like left to right. Like... But random kind of works as well, right? 1 second is probably a little too long. Alright, so the question then becomes, how easily is this integratable? Because obviously in the puzzles, we have, we got a bunch of stuff, right? So right now, when we're clearing the fog, render fog, and animation happens here. Right. So let's do this. Console.warn render fog. And it'll be interesting to see how often that actually gets executed, because probably more than once is my instinct here. So if we refresh this, right? Yeah. So 1, 2, 63 times. What the hell? Oh, okay. So that's for all the so it... Yeah. If we're replaying, this shouldn't happen. Replay. Replay playing. Handle update fog. If that is here, how many times did that execute? Puzzle is not defined. Replay playing is true. Why are we not skipping here? Wait, render fog. Where else is it getting run? Render fog, render fog.
Do we want to update fogs here? Wait a sec. Force is false. Okay, so it'll exit here. But do we want to... I don't want to mess with this, to be honest. But I'm wondering if we could skip it if replay playing is true. Like, if I say, if replay playing, return, right? But then it won't be updated. Uh-huh. Init fog. What does init fog do? Does that deal with replay playing? Not exactly, huh? If we do this, it does seem to work, but that's a bit scary. All right. Let's go deeper. We've got replay playing. I mean, sorry, we have render fog, and then at some point we're gonna start the fade. So we'll have a start fade here. Right? And if I do this, if I clear this and I go here. All right. So even though we have multiple render fogs, we actually only end up with one start fade. So if I skip this and do this, we don't even have one start fade because start fade doesn't happen during replay. Okay, good. Yeah, it doesn't fade. So it's the fade where we're gonna do the animation. So how tightly can we tie this up? Like how independent of everything else. So we don't have to worry about the fog. All right, so let's see. We have create puffs. Create cell we don't need, right? So it's create puffs and start animation. Create puffs, we have this, we need this. We have create part SVG. So create puffs, we actually wanna also pass in width and height. WH. Right? WH. That. Just to make it completely independent of the exteriors. And we want to parse in SLG as well. So we have our parent SVG, or our parent element at least. No, we need the actual SVG, right? Right. Let's make sure this still works. Where's our... here it is. Why is it off screen? Can we re-render this, please? Huh? What? Width and height. Width and height. X and Y here is no longer... Makes sense, right? What the heck is missing? But did I just rip out that we need it? Expected NA. CX... X. Console.log. Create buffs. I don't think these brackets will work here. Expected length object SVG such. What? Huh? This was already an error here. Create part. What? We already have a problem in create part for cell. Width, height. Oh. XY width height. SVG. Oh my god, I'm modifying the create puffs thing, and we're actually doing create cell. God darn it. All right. Create puff. Wait, what? Create puffs. Create puffs. Yeah, okay. I think I'm catching on. So, create puffs, SVG, X, Y, width, height. Alright. Let's get rid of the function we're not actually using. Let's move all the function out of here that we can, because we've made them independent. So I think create cell can live out here now. The strong independent. No. We're just gonna return that. Just gonna do that. And then create cell. We're gonna do cells.push. Create cell. We're just gonna put these all in a row. That, like that, like that, like that. Right. Fog color is not defined. Okay. Fog color is here. We're gonna make that a global. I think that's fair. Right? Don't need that stuff anymore. Okay. And now create puffs should also be independent up and to including our little the fog color, right? This we don't need anymore. These we kind of do need. If I do this like that, then this becomes just CX CY. Right, and this also becomes CXCY for the XY. We're just storing for later use, and the delta X. All right. Create part. I guess we can just literally do this now. Don't need that anymore. We don't need to store it separately. Some pains here. Puffs we don't need anymore either. All right. And this can also now move to the outside. And it should still work, right? Boom. All right. So now I know this stuff is independent of anything I've done in here, which makes it easier to transfer to the other code base. Animation stuff. We're using request animation frame. What are we using here? Are we doing it ourselves? No. So we could use this. Clear cell. Okay. Right, here we're doing the fog fading, but we kind of need to pretend we don't need that here. Is there anything else we can reduce? Yeah. I don't know how safe it is to store these on attributes. I don't know if this is cross-browser, so I might not want to do that. And this can just be in here, really. Right? So we can rename this to clear cell. We pass in cell here. right? And then we'll just say, we can just say let fog equals cell, puff g equals create puffs. Ah, we don't actually need to do this. Oh, this should work. Then we don't need that. Need that. Now, identify fog. Fog equals. I'm not trying to reuse fog. I'm trying to use it once. Oh, I'm an idiot. Hey guys. Hey Poochie. And okay, it's still working. So now I need to remember when we're doing the fade, how do we know what we're fading? Exactly. So the fade doesn't happen per cell. The fade happens as a difference between the previous set of cells and the new set of cells. So we're creating a singular shape and then we're fading that, right? So if we're going back to our puzzle here, and we'll inside start set fade, we're gonna, because here we're really just operating on the entire layer. We don't really operate on individual cells, right? So union cells, cells to path, get cells, outline cells, cells to path, clear fade force, create fog cage next cells. So next cells are the cells that are getting lit up. And pref cells is the cells that were lit up previously. And union cells are the cells that are lit up in both. Create fog cage. So if I do this, these are the cells that should get cleared. Nope, not here. Clear. So these are. Wait, what? Wait a second. Why are there 80? 78. 80. 78. Create. Oh, yeah. Next cells is the cells that will be fogged afterwards. So union cell are the ones that were fogged in both. So we need the different cells. If we want to find this, only the cells that are actually being unfogged. We need the opposite. We need cells that are neither. No, wait. We need cells that were in previous cells but aren't in next cells, right? Wait, is that just cells? No, cells I think is all cells. So if I do this, right? We have 81 cells, we have 78 previous cells, and 80 next cells. So next cells is the next one. So we want... Oh, I haven't even thought about fading it back in. Let's not worry about that for a sec. So next cell is 78. So the cells that are in previous cells... So if I go for every previous cell and take and remove every cell that's in next cells... Right? So we should be able to do pref cells, fade cells, or clear cells. We'll do pref cells dot filter cell where pref cells where the cell is not in next cells. So not next cells includes cell. Now, prev lit next lit, I think, might actually include that set. And the other sets are the ones that are being calculated. So I might have done this for nothing. If I go from here. Previous lit, next lit. Previous lit was 1. Next lit was 3. So I want all the next lits that aren't in prev lit. So it's really next lit dot filter cell is not included in previous lit, right? If I do this, clear, put in a 2, we're getting 2 cells cleared, and I clicked something. And if I make a 4, it clears this and this. Yeah, okay, so the cleared cells are the ones we want. Let clear cells equals clear cells. And these are the ones we basically want to apply our thing on. Now, at this point, what are the elements I'm dealing with? I have the path element, the fade out element. I think all of these are set up in init fog. Oh, yeah, okay. So we have this group fog cover. So we want our little balls to be inside this group fog cover, I think. All right. Let's do this step by step. Let's go through these for on cell of clear cells. Log clear cell. So this should just loop through a bunch of cells. And it says, okay, clear these 2 cells. So from these cells, we should be able to figure out where they are. Right? Yeah. Do these have their part? They have their element. But that's the diff. That's not the rendering part. Render values. We don't have a reference? No, we must have a reference to the rendered parts. I'm just thinking, does the cell itself know anything about its own SVG parts, right? If we look at the cell object over here, clear child element, get child element, clear rent, get render prop toggle, get child element, render rat target class name, alum. So it should have child elements. Should have child elements, but maybe they're not being set up properly. Okay, that's fine. When we're rendering, we're doing this, and then we do the conversion in the renderer. I mean, this probably needs to go into the renderer. I wish, I'm trying to think, is there a hacky way of getting that in there quickly right now? So if I say let x equals, because I don't know. Actually, I do know. So we can say cell dot column by cell dot row, and then cells. If I multiply that by cell size, that should get that x, y. So we do this, right? 0, 4, 0, 0. So if I do this times cell size, yeah, that's it, right? And then our width and height just is cell size. And then we want to attach them. Do we want to attach them to the fog layer? Because the fog layer might have a filter on it. I'm not sure. We look at the SVG. Fog cover. I think we can put it inside fog cover. Okay. So, where are we at? If we want to add these, the puffs, can we just do create puffs in here? If I say create puffs, right? We have SVG, and we do need create part as part of this, right? We need to do that. We can do this. Create part. Create part. Parent. Right? And then here, actually, I think I'm already doing that. Like, we can just pass that in. So, namespace URI seems to work not just on the SVG. Do we already have a reference to the SVG here? I think if we look at the SVG renderer, we should be able to extract what we need from there. First of all, if I run this, is it just gonna blow up? No. Alright. SVG renderer.get elem. Is that, am I guessing right here? Yes. So we need SVG and parent. So we'll want to do parent. Right. Parent. Create part. Parent. Create part. Yeah. So then we can do something like const SVG equals that. SVG. And now, if I do something like this, let's puff be one. So we need parts in the SVG. We want to do parent equals SVG dot query selector fog path fog devs fog cover hash fog cover SVG parent. And we probably undefined using a pen chart. Okay, so so SVG parent X Y cell size. What else do we need? It's that, right? Fog color is not defined. All right, so fog color, I believe, is defined. It's probably just got a different name. In fact, it probably has
a CSS style. It's a mask. We have a fill here. Okay, so if we don't define the fill, does it inherit the fill? If I don't have this fill, what do we get? Ooh, I am seeing our particles. Ooh, this might actually be working. All right. What was the animation? So, clear puffs. Let's rename this to clear puffs. Clear puffs. So we'll basically have the same sort of thing. SVG parent X Y WH X Y WH parent. We got the fog for now. Right. So now, instead of generating the puff G, we'll just clear it. Is that a thing? Ooh, nope. Ah, the easing functions. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't even know if we are lerping at this point. He's out. Cubed. Okay. Yep. All right. Okay, 10 minutes. We're on a counter. All right, guys, 10 minutes. Hey! All right. That was less than 10 minutes. All right, this definitely needs some tuning. I feel like the other animation is kind of too lazy. But just that little bit of movement, that's really all I was looking for. Or that sort of notifying the solver. And now I gotta clear a few more cells, so, and I'm just gonna guess. So, yeah, so this is what it looks like when there's a cleared cell to the side. I think it still works. Maybe we want it to be slightly slower. Let's see, is the animation timing given for the other animation? The fade. Start fade, fade frame. Fog crossfade MS. 150 milliseconds. Feels so slow. That's strange, because this is 1,000. It feels so much faster. All right, what ditch is this? I don't think we need the reverse animation, actually. I think this is fine. Yeah, I don't think we need a reverse animation. All right, let's clear some more. I gotta finish the, yeah. And this definitely lets you know, hey, there's something else happening, you know? Huh. I wonder if I could just draw these circles onto the layer, onto the fog layer itself. Because, wait a second, what am I animating? I'm animating, like in the original animation, in the fade, I'm animating, because I think what I did here is the fade out and fade in is basically I'm fading out the previous cage setup and I'm fading in the next one. So because we could both have a fade in and fade out of cells, I think. But the question is, could I just draw the circles into the fade in element? Ah, but it's not a group. I think the fade in element is literally... So what if I move the puffs into this instead of fog cover? So if I moved it into this instead of fog cover, and then I don't bother with modifying this, what would that look like? I don't see them anymore. Ah, because they need to be drawn now in black and or white, right? So the color for these layers is given. Well, you know what? I don't think I'm gonna be able to figure that out in the time remaining. So let's just have a quick look around. Oh. Wait. Ah, because I removed the fade. All right. And now, basically what we want to do at the end of this, here, if else, we basically want to just remove them all, right? Else, boom, we'll do puff.remove. And that should remove everything that was there in the first place, right? Hey, apparently not. Apparently not. Uh-huh. Well, there's definitely... I mean, this is a very rough thing. Why does the puff G, the group itself, have... It shouldn't have anything in it. Huh. There's something fishy going on. Like, there's more children here that I'm seeing. I gotta definitely make sure that all works correctly. Alright, and now if I put in the opacity change, which is here, this is definitely not a thing. This is no longer a thing at all. Right? Yeah, we probably don't want the animation happening on this initial load. No, I'm not. I'm iterating here. Oh, yes, you're right. In fact, we don't care. We just remove the parent, right? We don't need to remove the individual things. We don't have to care about that at all. By the way, massive spoiler for this puzzle, I think. Although, I've been messing with this so hard that maybe it's not even spoiling anything. 3. 8. 7. There aren't any I need to look at other dynamic fog puzzles to see what it looks like when you're revealing larger areas. What if I do this? There's a pause. So that's what I was worried about. Like on my computer, I barely notice it, but on a phone doing this, might be a big problem. Kill the children. Yes. But it definitely has the desired effect of kind of making it visible. And I think the fact that they kind of blend into each other, they're not too visible, is actually a bit of... But there's like a definite stutter when it generates all those circles. So we might have to reduce the number of circles quite a bit. And it might not even be feasible because... Also, why is this 6 and that's 4? That doesn't make any sense. What if we go back to 3 and 3 like we had originally? Not as great. And I still get that stutter.
I'm thinking one of the ways to, I don't know if that would optimize it though. Because I'm currently doing it per cell, but since I know I have to animate all the cells of a given change at once, I don't need to do it per cell. I could do... I don't think the multiple groups, because it's currently one group per cell. I was just thinking I could potentially put them all into a single group, animate the opacity of the group as 1. So there's only one puff G. Yeah, I mean that's something I can mess around with. But I think for now I'm gonna have to call it a day because it's ready. But this kind of does a thing. Yeah, it might be something I put up into experimental as a choice and then ask people to kind of give me some feedback and see if I can find any major performance issues. But I like that it's independent. But what I want to do is have a single group and then have all the puffs inside that single group and only change the attribute opacity on that. I'll still have all the individual ones, right? And it's a lot of circles. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. All right. Gotta call it. Thank you very much for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Marusha, Francesco, Chameleon, thanks for hanging out. It really helps. Makes this a lot more fun, a lot easier to do. Oh, private message. Clear the fork by wind animation for you. Ooh, you found it or you did it? This is sent to me by Chameleon just now. Or whenever he sent it. 50 minutes ago. Is it gonna load? Is it coming? Come on. Come on. What's happening? What are you waiting for? Why is it taking so long? Here we go. Ah, squares. I wonder if squares are more effective than circles. Don't know. Well, that's a lot of squares. I don't think performance. I don't think there'll be a performance improvement on what we have here. And phew. PUBG. Well, thanks for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. I really need to do some during the week streams next week. Otherwise, you know. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye. Where's my button? Where's my button?